Hello crafty viewers! Today's card, we are making this beautiful tri-fold haunted graveyard card. So, come join along as I go through the steps that I did to pull this all together. Now it's time to put on one of our graveyard gates. Put the mat back down, make that a little bit easier to see what I'm doing. So, here's the hinge. Make sure we have that going in the right direction. And off all the extra little stuff. And I'm going to put down my gate. Now I'm going to put pillars on the outside, but I want to put the gate down first. The gate is not going to be an opening gate. However, before we put the gate down, we do need to cut out our little lock because it is going to latch behind here. So I need a tiny scrap of white cardstock, of which I have plenty. And I'm just going to take some Inca Gold in the corner. Don't need to make it very big. Just enough for the lock. I'm going to run that through my Big Shot. Alright, look at that. That's awesome. Now this is a locked gate, so I do need to take a little snip out of this to be able to wrap that around the back. So I'm just going to snip with my scissors, figure out where I want to put it. And just cut right up here at the top. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I am going to take a little bit of the Inca Gold and go around the edges so that you don't see any white edges showing. I'm also going to do the back, just in case any of it is actually showing through the back of the gate. Don't think any will, but just in case. And I'll take a paper towel and I'll buff that out. The buffing really brings out the shine in the Inca Gold. Now I am going to loop that through and pull off, or attempt to pull off, the backing here so we can set this down on the cardstock. The back will catch on the pieces here. So what I've learned when I've used the Xyron machine, as well as my Silhouette cutting mat, is you pull away from your piece, and that way what you're pulling away is curved, not your piece, because otherwise it puts a wicked curve in your piece. See, I'd much rather have the backing be all curled up than my workpiece. So before I set that down, I'm going to slip this around. And I'm not going to glue this down because now that's going to be attached with the sticky, and it gives it a nice 3-dimension. There, it's nice and adhered down to the plastic. And our little lock isn't going anywhere. Now we're going to very carefully lay down the next piece. And this is why you can see the back of it. This is why I'm putting a piece on the back. Hopefully I can get this to line up and it doesn't go disastrously. Now normally I would only peel off part of it and continue to peel as I go, but this is such an intricate piece that there's no possible way of doing that. Because if you only peel part of it, then you can line it up before you're committed to sticking it down. That lined up perfectly. Awesome. Now, I also die cut a bunch of pieces for the graveyard and the house, and they've been hiding in here. And I am going to adhere these bats. And the bats I am going to just adhere onto the plastic. I'm not going to put them, I'm going to do one. I'm going to put two then in the sky behind. However, they won't be quite as visible because of the starry sky in the background. So for this little guy, I'm just going to use some liquid adhesive that dries clear. You don't want to use a glue dot, which would be a lot easier, but the glue dot, you'll see it from behind. So I'm just going to adhere part of his wing and his body. And once that goes down, I can't move it then because otherwise it'll smear the glue around and you'll be able to see that. I'm just going to leave him to dry and move him off to the side. We'll work on this section next, but you can see where we're going. So now we have this side that will open up and the seam behind it. So let's work on the seam behind it. We'll come back and put the pillars on later. So for the seam behind, I know I'm not going to use the entire piece of green cardstock, which is why I sacrificed it for the glue. For the seam behind, we have the haunted house on the hill. We have some green grass, and that's what this is for. And then we got the blue sky behind. So let's start first with setting up our seam so then we can figure out where everything needs to go. So the first piece we have is this pathway. So with the pathway, which I just sketched out a rough pathway that looked like it was receding into the distance, I know that the house needs to be about here in order to accommodate everything. I also have my tree, and I kind of like the idea of the tree crossing over the pathway. So that accommodates most of the tree. So now I know where my house is going to go. And I can kind of sketch out where I want the grass to go. So I know that I need about that much grass. So I'll move this, I'll move this, slide the grass under, and I'll re-sketch that out. Does it need to be exact? No. So that gives me a rough feel for where I cut the green cardstock. First things first, we're going to cut the green cardstock to 5 inches wide. Next, we will line that back up. And mark where it needs to be trimmed on the bottom. Next, we will take our starry night sky and figure out what we want to keep. I kind of like, so it's 5 inches wide. I kind of like the purple side. So we're going to cut at least down to here. Now that's the first piece we're going to lay down. Ooh, kind of like that. There we go. Look at that. So we can actually apply this. There's no side out. Hear that down. Now, my house needed some yellow windows behind it. However, when I take a look at that, once I lay it down, I'm not sure if that's going to be light enough. Let's see how that looks. Well, you can see the stars behind. So I'm actually going to trace this onto a piece of that scrap paper. We're going to make a little white backing behind this. Okay, so I got this cut out. It matches this perfectly, or close to it. I then also took it and traced it on the back, so now I know where to put glue down. And I'll glue it from behind, and that way I don't have to worry about gluing on the vellum and having it be over a window. And this time I will make sure that the glue comes out of my clogged up glue bottle. First piece that goes down is the vellum, and because I traced it, I know exactly where it needs to go. We're going to lay a stamping block on that and let that dry for a minute. And here we have the second layer of our card. Alright, now, putting glue in pretty much those same spots, we're going to do the next layer for the white cardstock. And that way, again, I don't have to worry about putting glue down over the windows. So let's set that down here. Glue block to hold it. And we can start working on the rest. So the next piece we have is our path. And I used the crackle texture that I featured in previous videos that came from the October 2016 paper pumpkin kit that I bought off of eBay. There is a Bo Bunny crackle texture in one of their texture stamp sets that would look very similar to that. And I just stamped some crackle to make it look like that's an old path. However, it looks a little too neat and pristine. So let's bust out some black ink and just kind of go over the edges. There, that looks a little bit better. Now, we can position this, but we're not going to do anything until we glue the house down. What it does allow us to do, while that's working, its magic, is to lay the tree down and figure out where we're going to put the moon. So if the moon's right, tree is right here, we can put the moon right over here. So let's glue that down while we're waiting. Now for this, I am going to use the fine tip glue pen. And I do like the darker side of the moon here. I think that'll stand out real nice against the purple. Alrighty. That dry for a minute. So, we can now put glue on the back of the house. Get that glued down. Now I am gluing this rather than taping it. I just want to make sure on that glossy sky background that it doesn't move around. There we go. We're also going to glue down our pathway. And we're going to glue down the tree. Now, you could put dimensionals behind this, however, the problem is this is the inside of the card, not the outside, and that wouldn't allow the gate cover to close correctly. Now that all of that's in place, now we can start decorating the graveyard. I had used that crackle on some of these pieces, and I think I like it better without. So I'm actually just going to take a little bit more of that black Distress Oxide ink and just kind of texturize the edges a little bit. So let's figure out where these go. These are going to be kind of a little cattywampus. It's an old graveyard. And people, house has been there a long time, people are just buried everywhere. Alrighty, there we go. So, I am going to take one of these bats and put him flying right in front of the moon. And for him, I think we probably can use a little dimensional, just to make sure he's noticeable. So, pulling out one of my 1/8 inch dimensionals, little micro dot. That right in the middle of the body. And pull the wings up while holding the body down. We have a tiny little bit of dimension. This edge will come off on the tree though. So now we're ready to glue on the back edge. And I'm going to use glue to make sure that this adheres really well. And also to make sure that it doesn't get in the way of opening the card. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to put the pillars on the front, and for that we have 5/8 of an inch, and I'm going to cut these the same width, and I'm going to cut 4 strips like that. One for each side. I'm going to go a little bit more than 5/8. Just a tiny bit more. That was not quite enough. There we go. Perfect. Now this piece will just have to go on the inside. And you'll never notice. So, these aren't just any pillars. These are pillars made by Ink on My Elbows, which means they have a little something something to them. So I'm going to measure them out and cut a little corner off of each one. So the stone pillars are going to go in this Dries Stone embossing folder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink up this side of it and put them so that this is the good side. And when I ink it up and run it through the embossing machine, that will put the ink in what is effectively the grout lines. So I just run my ink pad over the edges. If any gets in between, that's okay. It actually creates kind of a dirty, weathered look, and you know, this is a graveyard, so dirty and weathered is fine. make sure I lay good side down, and once I lay it down, I don't touch it. I want to make sure that I have corners facing the right directions. Close it, carefully run it through the embossing machine. And there you go. Look at that. Now, when you take a paper towel and kind of brush it off, that helps even out the ink a little bit. Look at that. Perfect. However, you do want to make sure you clean out your embossing folder right away. Okay, so now we can just glue these down. And again, I'm going to use glue to make sure they stay down and adhere, especially now that they're embossed. That just reduces the amount of surface area that will touch. And there is our spooky graveyard haunted card. Now, I'm not going to put a sentiment on the inside. You probably could. I'm not going to. However, the one thing I am going to do is I am going to take a little bit of dark ink around all of these edges. And that helps get rid of the white edge. And down here gives a little bit of dimension. Kind of ties everything all together. And we're done. Well, thank you for joining us today. Hopefully this is something that you can try. It's just a bunch of pieces added together, and the effect is pretty awesome, actually. I kind of like this card. If you like it, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to see more videos in this video series, as well as the continuation of our Love Fall Art series, and after that, after Thanksgiving, our Christmas series. Have a great day and happy crafting.